Welcome back to my channel. It's Chelsea, where we talk about all things glam and all things girly. I'm a beauty enthusiast that loves to talk about everything dealing with beauty and makeup, and today we are doing a nice, beautiful ode to Mothership III. If you didn't know, Mothership III is back in stock. It's been a while since this palette has been available for purchase, and so I wanted to just create a video where we show how we create a more subtle look on the eye, and when I say subtle, subtle for this palette, and then a little bit more of a dramatized eye look with this palette. I love this palette. It is definitely one of my favorite Mothership palettes. All of them are my favorite, but you know what I'm saying. So stay tuned for all of that. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. And let's get right into this video. So let's get into it. Subversive Mothership III, if you did not know, has been restocked on Pat McGrath's website. And so if you've been interested in getting the palette, run, do not walk, get this palette. I do have an affiliate link down in the description box that I would love for you to shop through. Anytime you all shop through my links, it really does help to support my channel and allows me to continue to do what I'm doing. So I just wanted to put that out there. This palette always sells out every time it comes back in stock, and it is because Subversive is that chick, okay? I like to call Subversive the palette that breaks all the rules, because when you look at this palette, she says what you're gonna do is create a bold and a daring look, and you're not gonna be afraid. And I was like, listening and obliging. So I love this palette for all of that. I have done dedicated reviews on every Mothership palette. I've also done a full ranking of my Mothership palettes. So I will list that playlist down below in the description box so you can check that out. So check out my other video that does go into more detail about this palette with swatches and things like that. Today, we're just gonna focus on the eye look, so let's get into it. Okay, so first I have primed my eyes with the Danessa Myricks Colorfix product in the shade Nude 5. So that's what's on my eyes, or my eyelids, and let's get into it. So first, let's start off with this shade right here. This is called Deep Shade, and this is a matte shade. I'm gonna go in with my What's Up Beauty. This is the R103 brush. This is a natural haired brush, goat hair if I remember correctly. And just gonna put a little bit of product on the brush, and let's start building up this shade. So we're gonna start with the more subtle look. You know, like I said, more subtle for this palette. So maybe not the most subtle look, but one that's more subtle. I like to start building up the shadow along the outer edge of the eye because I want the concentration of the shadow to be the greatest there. And then I'm just gonna blend the excess into the crease and into the transition area. Subversive is going to always lend more smoky-like looks because we only have a couple of matte shades. We literally have two. We've got this black shade called Extreme Black, and then we have this shade here, which is Deep Shade, the one that we've just been using. So if you're solely relying on this palette to give you a full look, all of your looks are going to be more smoky, maybe a little more grungy than what you might want. But the easiest way to kind of shear down an eyeshadow that is deeper in its tone is just start with a small amount and just continue to blend with what you have. So as you can see, the shade that we have in the transition right along here, and then also in the crease, is not as intense as the shade that we have here because I'm not going in with a lot. So just wanted to share that tip. I have noticed that the matte shades and some of the earlier Mothership palettes are not as smooth and blendable as her matte shades in her more recent Mothership palettes. I would say that I feel like the mattes got really beautiful and really smooth and blendable starting with Mothership 7 and on. So this matte shade, we are working with it a little bit. It is blending really nicely, but if you're paying attention, you're noticing that I'm kind of going back over certain areas because the mattes are just not blending the smoothest. So my recommendation, start with a little bit and then blend from there. Okay, now I'm gonna take her Intensifies wand because I love this thing. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically mixing Mayron in a stick form, so it allows you to have intensity of an eyeshadow. And so I'm going to apply it right here where we have not applied shadow and just blend it in over a little bit of the brown shade because I do want to add a shimmer on top. And I do want to intensify the shimmer. I know this is supposed to be a more, you know, subtle-ish look, but you know, I do like for my shimmers to pop. I want to go on with this shade right here. So this shade is called Lazarus. And I'm going to take a Rephr 01 brush. And we're going to just start by patting the shade right here in the center of the eye. And this shade is so beautiful. The shade Lazarus is a beautiful one and done shade. So if you're on the go and you're just like, I want to add an eyeshadow to the eye and I want something like that has some pigmentation, but I also want something that I can just kind of blend over my eye, blend it into the crease and keep it going, Lazarus is great for that. Especially if you have medium tan to deeper skin, in terms of, you know, what you might prefer for like a one and done look that has a little bit of depth, but like not the most smokiest. This is a good one for that. Now, this eye honestly is good to go. We could add shadow on the lower lash line, which we will, and we really can be done. I am gonna add just a smidge of shimmer, but before we do that, let me go back into deep shade right here, the matte dark brown shade, and let's just apply some on the lower lash line. And this brush that I'm using is the Rephr 23 brush. Such a great brush for good detailing work. And I'm just gonna take it slightly out like I'm doing a faux wing. I'm gonna go in with Extreme Black right here with this same brush. Just add just a smidge, because like I said, we don't want to make this look so intense, but I'm just going to blend it like right here on the outer edge of the lower lash line. And then I'm going to take that same, take what's already on my brush and start to blend it up on the upper lid and into the wing. Because once again, we don't want this to be so bold, but I love to make sure that my eye looks have some type of depth and dimension to them. It just, you know, adds for a little bit more of a complex eye. And you don't have to, you know, do the most to get depth and dimension to an eye look. It's all just about in the colors that you put together and how you put them together on your eye. I dabbed just a little bit more of this Extreme Black shade onto my brush, and now I'm holding the brush toward the end of its handle and adding a little bit more of that shadow across my upper lash line, but I'm keeping it very close to the lash line, and using this shade as a liner. And then whatever is left, I'm just gonna feather the brush along the crease right here. And that's it. We're just gonna keep it like so, because I don't want to make this too deep, dark, and intense, and it can get there very easily if I just continue to blend the shade into the crease. R103 brush, this is the What's Up Beauty brush that we were using before, and I'm just going to blend these shades together because we don't want any harsh lines or anything like that. So now I'm gonna take my Sonia G, this is the travel size of her flat definer brush, and let's go in with this shade right here called Skin Show Fever. And we'll just add a little bit of this for the inner corner and along the lower lash line. So take this shade and we'll just blend it into Lazarus. This will help to open up the eye some so that it doesn't look too dark and vampy. And then I will blend this along the lower lash line. Okay, eye look is done. I'll do lashes and liner at the end of the tutorial. And of course, I'll tell you what I use. But eye look is done. We have a nice, still still somewhat smoky eye look, but it's more subtle. I would wear this type of eye look to work, or I would wear this out in the evening time when I don't want something too bold and over the top, but I do want something that's just slightly more dramatic than what I might do for the day. I think this eye look is great. I'm just blending that shadow just a little further up into my transition area. Okay, so we're done with our more subtle-ish look from this beautiful Subversive palette. Now let's get into some drama. The possibilities are endless as to what we can start with. I don't even know where I want to start. Let's just go all the way there. So, Extreme Black. Let's take our Sonia G Builder Pro brush, Extreme Black, and we're gonna start at the lash line. And my Colorfix has creased some, so I'm just gonna blend that out so that the shadows don't settle into the creases. So we're gonna start at the base, tapping off excess, and I'm gonna start to build up the intensity of the shadow along the lower lash line and then blend up. And this does not have to be precise because we're gonna cover this black with other shades. So don't worry about being so precise. I more so want to just build up intensity of the shade along the base of the eye. Taking my Wayne Goss 26S brush, nothing on it, blending up over the edges of what we have laid down. And like I said, creating my wing. Extreme Black, especially for a black shade, blends very nicely. I really enjoy the formulation of this black shade. Builds nicely, and it blends nicely too, so it's not, one that you can't work with. Taking the Intensifies wand, and I am going to apply this all over the lid, and I'm gonna cover too, or apply this over the black shade that we laid down. Then getting into this shade right here called Blitz Amethyst, one of my favorite shades that Pat has made in this Blitz Astral formula. I'm gonna take it on my finger first and just start to apply it over the eye. Let's take a moment. Let's observe her just in all her glory. I love Pat's Blitz formula. I have found the best way to apply them is technically with your finger, but if you want more precision of application, it's nice to go in with a smaller flat definer brush. So I'm gonna take the Sonia G flat definer brush and get into the same shade because I do want to apply a little bit more here. And then apply it here as well. Now going in with my Refer 23 brush and Extreme Black, put this black shade right into the crease. And we will blend this out. No worries, no worries. And I'm also going to form a nice V with this black. So essentially, just using this black shade as a liner. And with this brush, the 23 brush, you're really able to do that beautifully because the tip of the brush is so thin. The hairs are nice and dense and not too flexible. So you really can use this brush as a liner brush. So I'm taking the BK Beauty Angie Hot and Flashy A504 brush, and I'm gonna start to blend along the outer area of the eye. I like to start here because then I feel like I can control how far up I blend on the outer corner, which helps me determine how far I need to blend up moving toward the middle of the eye. I'm also holding my brush around the middle of the handle because I don't want the blending to get out of control. So I want to have a little less pressure on the brush to control my blending. So working my way and taking my time, and what I've learned with intense smoky eyes or just intense looks, take your time with blending. There's no need to rush. Take your time with blending, and then you can get what you want. And then if you do make a mistake, you're able to catch it before it kind of gets out of hand. And then I'm gonna use my finger, because your fingers are a great tool for blending, just to further blend out these edges. I like to use my ring finger because I have less pressure amongst all of my fingers. And I can just lightly tap around the edges of the look. And for those of you who are wondering, I am getting my brows done on Sunday because it's time for us to get done. So yes, okay, now let's go in with Pat's Intensifies Wand. And I'm gonna put this over, what shade was this? Blitz Amethyst. Right here in the middle, because I wanna add the shade Black Metal to it. Black Metal is this shade right here, and it's a beautiful topper shade. Doesn't have a lot of opacity to it. So taking my travel size of my Sungeji flat definer brush, and I will say, when I first got this palette, I thought this shade, I didn't realize this shade was a topper shade. So I was like, okay, this shade is very lackluster. Using it by itself, and it's not that it's lackluster. I do know that sometimes, or I will say, I feel like mine was a little hard pan, so you might want to dig up the shadow some so you can pick up a good amount of it. Because since it is a topper shade, it's not going to have a ton of opacity to it. So I'm just taking the shade and adding just a little more depth to this look. Of course, if you were to use your finger, you could get more pigmentation, but I wanted to use a brush so I could concentrate this shade where I wanted it to, and so that's why I added her Intensifies Wand first, because I knew I could also get pigmentation from that as well. Going back in with my flat definer brush, I'm gonna take the shade Astral Ghost Orchid. This shade is definitely more textured than Blitz Amethyst is. When you rub your finger in Blitz Amethyst, it's very smooth. When you rub your fingers in Astral Ghost Orchid, it's, I don't want to say rough because it's not gonna hurt your eye rough, but it's definitely has more texture to it. So taking it on here, and I'm just gonna apply some right in the inner portion of the upper lid, just to add even more dimension to this look. Oh, that is so pretty. Going back in with Refer 23, I'm gonna mix Deep Shadow and Extreme Black together, and I'm just gonna take my brush and just kind of go back and forth and back and forth. Tap, tap, and that's what we'll smoke out the lower lash line with. Always, always, always here for the blend. So taking my BK Beauty Angie Hot and Flashy A504 brush, and we're gonna blend out the edges like so, just because it's always a better look when things are blended, unless you're not trying to blend and you want that more bold, stark look. I'm wiping off my Refer 23 brush. I want to go in with the shade called Night Creatures right here, because I think mixing these two shades together will be stunning. So taking Night Creature and then mixing that into Astral Ghost Orchid, and that is what I'll put right here. Blending that into our matte shades and then bringing that into the inner corner of the lower lash line. Then I'll take my Intensifies Wand and my Refer 23 brush, and I'll just run the brush across the wand, dip it back into Astral Ghost Orchid, and then we can intensify this inner corner pop, like so. Okay guys, eye looks are done, so I'm gonna finish off my eyes and my face. We'll come back and I'll share with you my final thoughts on this beautiful palette. Both eyes are done. Just to tell you what I did and to line my lower lash line and tight line, and then I used his eye pencil in the shade Rich Hazel. It's a brown shade for this eye because this is more brown, and this one we can, you know, do a little more smokiness with it. For the face, I used the Lisa Eldridge, her Elevated Glow in the shade Solar Light, and then I topped it with good old Pat McGrath, one of my favorite foundations of all times. This is in the shade M17, and then, cause it's Pat McGrath, I used her concealer in the shade M16 for my T-zone area. Blush, we have Pat McGrath's Divine Rose, and I thought this shade was beautiful for both eye looks. For bronzer, I used the Danessa Myricks Vision Cover or Vision Flush, I should say, in Toasted Almond. I don't have any highlight on because I feel like we have a nice glow from the Elevated Glow from Lisa Eldridge. On the lips, we have Christian Audette lip liner in Nude Sandals, and then the lipstick is Pat McGrath. It's a little mini size of her lipstick in the shade 1995. Those are the details of the face. Brows are done by Kosas Brow Gel, and then the Kosas Brow Pencil. So, Subversive. If Subversive is somewhat up your stream, I highly recommend this palette. Like I said, we did a more subtle look with this palette on this eye, and I think it turned out beautifully. I think this is a great everyday type of look if you are someone who likes kind of a bolder look for the day, but if you are someone who likes smokier looks for the evening, but you're not trying to go like deep, dark, and vampy, you've got a beautiful brown, warm toned base of a smoky eye that we were able to create with this palette. And then over here, I feel like we just, you know, brought a little more drama. Nothing crazy, just a little more drama. And I love how all of these shades are able to work together, how they were able to mesh together, and I really feel like this look came together. And you know, you throw some lashes on, you can make any look come together with some lashes. But I highly suggest, you know, giving this palette a try. I can also use this shade right here as a highlight. I didn't put it on today because I feel like this eye is a little more cooler. This eye is more warm, and I didn't want to put on two different highlights, but I have most definitely used this shade as a highlight, and I'll go ahead and swatch it for you so that if you're around my skin tone, you can see what it looks like. But that is such a beautiful shade for a nice, warm gold type of highlight. And then, I mean, if you want, you can most definitely use these astral shades as highlighters or highlight toppers. I mean, any of Pat McGrath's Mothership palettes are also face palettes. They don't have to be restricted to the eyes. You can most definitely use them on the face. And I highly encourage you to do that if you have any of her Motherships. Don't just restrict them to the eyes. Use them all over the face however you want to use them. You could even add some of these to the lips, especially these astral shades. I mean, Motherships are Motherships for a reason. The opportunities and the possibilities for these palettes are just endless. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you were able to get some inspiration for other eye looks. If you have not played around with Subversive much, or if you don't have it, or if you have it and you're just like, what else can I do with it? I hope these eye looks have inspired you to create more looks with it. And if you've made it to this point in the video and you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I would love for you to consider subscribing and joining the Glam Girl Squad. And guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope to see you in my very next video. Bye, guys.